I'm Cliff, and this is my garage. My first HPDE is next week, so it's time to go get the technical inspection. Hey, welcome back to the Cayman. And if this is your first time joining me, thanks for dropping by. So, like I was saying, that my first high-performance driver education event is going to be next week, and it's being run by the Florida Thoroughbred region of the Porsche Club of America, or the PCA. And one of the requirements for participating in a PCA driver education event is you have to have a technical inspection done on your car to make sure that it's, not falling apart, there aren't any kind of mechanical problems. Now, it says it has to be done by a qualified mechanic, and as far as I've been able to determine, the only qualified mechanics that they will accept are those that are at a Porsche dealership. Often when a PCA region is sponsoring an HPDE, the local Porsche dealer will do the technical inspections for free or a low cost. Unfortunately, the local Porsche dealer for this event is about a 2.5 hour drive away, so I can't take advantage of it. So I'm going to be going to Porsche of Jacksonville, which is my local dealer, and get the technical inspection done there. I set up an appointment. It took about three weeks to get in. They're really quite busy, partially because they just moved into a brand new building. So I thought I'd bring you guys along and talk about what is on the PCA checklist and show you as much as I can of what happens at the dealership. The first thing on the checklist is actually your helmet. And the helmet requirement is that it be a Snell certified helmet with the current certification or the previous one. And Snell is an organization that certifies these kinds of things. And you have to get a helmet with an SA rating or a special applications rating for automotive racing. But what they mean by current or previous certification is that Snell certifies helmets every 5 years. So, for instance, the current certification is the 2020 or the SA 2020 certification. And the previous one would have been 2015. So as of right now, 2010 helmets are no longer accepted. Some organizations do accept back to the previous certification, but not PCA. And I'm going to have to go around this slow fella here. Now, I don't think the dealership actually checks the helmet, but just in case, I've got my helmet in the back, which I just bought, so of course it's an SA 2020 helmet. Next on the list is the roll bar or the cage, and I don't have one in this car, so that's really not going to be looked at. If you have a roll bar or cage, basically they're going to look at it to make sure that it's solidly installed and it's in good condition, structurally sound. Seat belts are up next, and it says that it has to be factory seat belts or better. So factory seat belts are fine. If you have a harness installed, it has to be it can't be a 4-point harness. It has to be 5, 6, or 7 point. And if you have a harness, you have to have a hands device, which is a head and neck support device, which fits over your shoulders, and the harness straps go on top of it, and then your helmet hooks to it to keep your head from being snapped all over the place in the event of an accident. Structural integrity, well, they're going to look at the car's chassis, basically. They're going to look and make sure that the body, the unibody is not severely rusted around things like suspension attachment points. Doors have to be operable, both sides, and they have to be openable from both inside and outside, presumably so that they can get you out and you can get yourself out. They're going to check out the windshield and make sure that it's not cracked, and also that it's not fogged in some way that's going to obstruct your vision. You have to have at least one operable mirror. I've got 3, so I'm triple the minimum requirement. We're going to check the gas cap, make sure that it securely tightens and seals properly and it's not leaking in any way. A big one is they're going to be looking for fluid leaks, and specifically dripping leaks, because you don't want to be dripping slippery substances all over the track for the people behind you to enjoy. Now, seepages are fine when you've got a little bit that's seeped out around a seal or something and just sitting there is collecting dirt. But what you want to avoid, or what they're looking for, is actually dripping. They're also going to inspect the fluid lines that convey those fluids. For instance, your brake lines and your coolant lines. Make sure that there are no cracks and everything is sealed properly, and that no corrosion on something like that. Your battery has the potential to become a very heavy, high-speed projectile in the event of an accident, and you don't want that. So they're going to check out the battery, make sure it's securely, properly secured. That's the words I'm looking for. And they're going to check it says checking for corrosion. I'm not sure why they're going to check for corrosion, but it says they do. We're going to check out the throttle, make sure that when you let off the throttle, that the throttle disengages, comes back. From what I understand, they just blip the throttle to see that it's working well. I don't think they physically inspect it, because it'd be a real pain to get at the throttle mechanism in the Cayman, the way the engine is hidden inside the middle. They'll look up through, I guess, the bottom of the car to check out the belts, make sure that your belts are not frayed or cracked. They're also going to look at your brakes. It's PCA standards say that you have to have at least 3/16 of an inch of brake pad left, because you don't want to wear your brakes out in the middle of an event, and that would be a bad thing. So 3/16 is the minimum. I checked all mine already. I'm at 3/8 to 1/4. So I'm fine there, but I'm still going to, after this inspection, I'm going to replace all the pads and put in brand new pads, just to be absolutely sure. Take the old pads with me as an emergency backup if I have to. Now, one thing they're going to look at is the brake fluid. And they're going to ask you when you last checked your brake fluid, or rather when you last changed your brake fluid, because the PCA specs say that you have to have completely flushed your brake fluid and replaced it within the last year. Now, the reason for that is that brake fluid is hydroscopic, which means it absorbs water right out of the air, and generally that's not that big of a deal, because the way brake fluid works, it's like it's a solid, incompressible rod connecting your brake pedal and your brake calipers, and water is just as incompressible. These tracks are kind of rough. Are just as incompressible as brake fluid is. I'm not sure if I said that right. Water is just as incompressible as brake fluid is. Now, the problem is when your brakes get really hot, like when you're using them a lot on a racetrack, and if they get too hot, that water in the brake fluid can boil. Now, instead of a nice incompressible water, you have a very compressible gas, steam, and your brake pedal is going to start getting kind of soft and spongy, and then it's just going to go right to the floor and not work at all. Now, along those same lines, they not only require that you have replaced your brake fluid within the last 12 months, they recommend that you have replaced it with a high-performance racing type brake fluid. And the reason for that is because brake fluid also can boil. And when it boils, it has the exact same effect. It just does it at a higher temperature. Standard brake fluid boils at around 450 degrees, which is fine for normal, everyday driving. But in a track situation where you're using brakes quite hard and often, you can build up more heat than that. And so I went with Castrol SRF, which has a boiling point of almost 600 degrees. Another one that a lot of people use is Motul. I believe there's a Motul 500 and Motul 560. I'll check on that. But that's another very popular one. They're going to check your brake lights, make sure they're working. They're also going to check out the pedals, brake, accelerator, and if you have one, I don't, a clutch pedal, to make sure they're operating freely and that they return back up to their position the way they should. They'll check out the wheels, make sure that they are not cracked or bent or anything like that. They're also going to check the lug nuts or lug bolts to ensure that they're properly tightened to the right torque, and that they're also not, cracked or something, some kind of problem like that. They're also going to check the engagement. If you only have an engagement, is how many threads or how far the bolt is into the hole or how far the nut is onto the stud. And if it's only 2 or 3 threads, that's not good. Even though it's tightened, you don't have enough thread engagement to really be safe. They're going to want to see, I think the standard is like basically 7 or 8 turns. So you have 7 or 8 threads engaged. If you're one of those pricey center lock wheels, they're going to check those, make sure that they are tightened up and installed correctly. Another thing that's going to get looked at is the wheel bearings, and to do that, they're just going to basically grab the wheel and just kind of wiggle it back and forth and up and down, see if there's any play in that, and also spin the wheel, make sure that there's kind of grinding sounds. While they're there, they're going to check out your tires, make sure they're not split or cracked. I'm not sure if they check out the date code to see when they were manufactured. I saw 1 or 2 events, if I recall correctly, where they said your tires couldn't be any more than 5 years old. And if you look at the tire, there is a date code on there that you forget exactly how you interpret it, but it tells you the month that the tire was manufactured. They're also going to check the tread depth, make sure that that's good. They're also going to take a look at the front and rear suspension, make sure there's nothing loose, everything's tightened up correctly, that you don't have any kind of bad joints or anything, and just is it all in good condition and safe. And the last thing on the list is the exhaust system, which they're not going to check the loudness of it to see if there's any kind of noise limits. They're simply going to look and make sure, all right, is it in good condition and is it securely attached? Okay, that's it for the list itself. So we'll head on into Jacksonville, find Porsche of Jacksonville. They're in a new building. They just moved into it, like I was saying earlier. I'm not sure exactly where it's at. Should be right here. Oh, okay, there. I see a big curved silver. Yep, that's it. Big curved silver building. That's got to be it. I said they've only been here a few weeks, so looks nice. But now I don't know where the service entrance is anymore. Service. Ah, good. Service pointing that way. I guess it means this way. Okay. Oh, all right. Here we go. Very nice.
The new building is really astounding looking. I think they're making too much money. Of course, I had to check out the newest 718 Cayman. I still prefer my 987.2. The new waiting room features a glass wall that overlooks the entire service bay. And here the mechanic is pulling the Cayman into a spot, putting it up on the lift. Here he's checking the wheel bearings. Here he seems to be checking out the brake calipers and rotors. And here he's using a gauge to measure the remaining thickness of the brake pads. Seatbelt check. And after about 45 minutes, all was done and everything was fine.
Okay, we're all done at the dealership, headed home, got my signed and dated and filled out checklist with the PCA. I've got my little, around the corner here, got my little red stamp on there. Not sure if you can see that's the official dealer stamp certifying that all is good to go and that this is genuine. Now, at first when they gave it back to me, I had to remind them about that stamp. It didn't have it on there at first, but they just grabbed one, and now I'm good to go. Okay, guys, well, thank you for joining me on this trip. I really appreciate it. Please go down there, find that thumbs up button, give me a like on the video. While you're down there, if you're not one of my subscribers, and we're pushing in on 3,000 subscribers, that's pretty exciting. Anyhow, if you're not a subscriber yet, please go down there, find that big red subscribe button, give it a click. It doesn't cost a thing, it doesn't hurt a bit, and you'll probably actually enjoy it. Honest, trust me. And finally, if you want to keep up with everything I'm doing with the Cayman, with my HPDE track days, and just general improvements in the garage and around the house, go click on that bell icon. That turns on notifications for this channel, and that way YouTube will let you know every time that I post something new from, well, about 5 miles in that direction in Cliff's garage. I'll see you next time.